Hey there, you guys. So it's Friday, October 13th, 2023. And what we do here every single Friday is I like to gather up all the interesting things that happen within the video game industry, at least things that I find interesting. And I'm hoping you find them interesting as well. Things like Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch getting its first big major update. PlayStation finally showing off the PlayStation 5 Slim quote unquote, and Halo Infinite getting its big update coming, and a lot of people really hyping up this new Halo Infinite update patch, whatever. If you guys like this style of video, do me a favor and like this video. Please consider subscribing, as that does help us out tons. Let's not waste any more time and let's get into the very first news topic, and that is Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch. So immediately at launch, there was a huge controversy because Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch was horrendous, as to be expected. I don't think anyone was expecting the best top quality game on the Nintendo Switch for Mortal Kombat 1, but I think people were hoping it'd at least be serviceable. And it was riddled with glitches, riddled with bugs. It was slow. It was horrendous. By all means, it was not playable. And the biggest thing was that this was at the $70 price point, equal to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series versions. So it is one of those things that the price was in parity, but the quality was so far from parity, it was horrendous. Ed Boon did make efforts, or at least he said that they were going to make efforts to clean up the game, make it a little bit more playable. And the update finally did come out, and based off all accounts, it is better. But obviously, it's Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch. I don't really know what you guys really were expecting from the Switch version of a PS5 game. So again, it's better than it was on launch, but it's still a PS5 game running on Nintendo Switch, so it's definitely not the most optimal. This isn't what you want to be playing if you're getting ready for Evo, etc. You're better off just getting the PlayStation 5 version or the Xbox Series PC versions. On better note, for the Nintendo Switch side of gaming, Super Mario Bros. Wonder has been available to kind of the public via kiosks at your local Targets, GameStops, etc. And previews are starting to come out with a lot of people playing them, and a lot of people are singing praises for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Some even claiming this is Game of the Year worthy. Now, I love Super Mario Bros. I love 2D Mario. I played Super Mario Bros. Wonder at my local GameStop, and as well as my local Target. So I decided to give it a shot. It's pretty much a 10-minute demo. Get as far as you can. And I'm happy to say that this game is amazing. This game is astounding. It is doing everything I hoped it would do out of a 2D Mario. As far as people saying that it's Game of the Year worthy, I feel like that is a freaking stretch. No offense. I feel like in a lot of years, yeah, sure, nominated for Game of the Year. But with all these big, expansive, super high polished, super narrative driven, super innovative on their genres, I don't necessarily think there's a place for a 2D Mario in 2023's lineup of Game of the Years. I do think it is a very high quality game, and I think it's a very polished game. I just don't think it's going to take up a spot in the Game of the Year conversation. Now, moving on to newer games coming out for the Nintendo Switch. There is a rumor that I started seeing speculate a lot and kind of run through the rumor mill, and it's the fact that Nintendo Switch leaker that goes by the name Zippo unofficially leaked out the lineup for the Nintendo Switch 2 as far as the games that he knows currently in development, supposedly. Now, take all this with a grain of salt, because I don't even believe when Zippo talks about this stuff. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. So the games that Zippo claims are going to be the launch lineup of the Switch 2 is a new 2D Donkey Kong game, a 3D Super Mario game, a new Pokemon game, a Monster Hunter game, and a Super Monkey Ball game. Now, I feel like you're just throwing stuff at the wall at this point. I feel like you're just naming a bunch of games that are possible, because we don't have a Monster Hunter game. So we know after the success of Monster Hunter Rise, Capcom will make another Monster Hunter game for the Nintendo, as there's a huge audience for it. Obviously, a 2D Donkey Kong game has been discussed a lot, especially in more recent days. again, a 3D Mario game has been discussed a lot. A lot of people have been rumoring it. A lot of people have been saying that that's most likely like the banger title that you launch the next console with. Again, I don't think there's anything out here that's like crazy or like, oh my god, I can't believe that's coming, you know? Like pretty early on into the Nintendo Switch, we saw some crazy games that we didn't expect would be in the launch lineup. Things like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Shin Megami Tensei 5, things like that were announced around the time of the Nintendo Switch like original. And I don't see any of those like type of games like really like, I don't want to say more niche, but more like I wouldn't have expected that or guessed that type of game in this like quote unquote leak. So I don't think much of it is like, you know, factual or like held together by like a lot of like truths. I think it is very much just somebody speculating, someone throwing some obvious names at the wall and hoping they stick. Hey, I could be wrong, but that's just what it feels like for me, especially with Zippo's track record of more often than not just not really, you know, speaking the truth. Alright, let's talk about PlayStation, Sony, the crazy mind that Sony PlayStation. Now, it has been long rumored that there has been a detachable disk drive slim version of the PS5 in development. A lot of people said it sounded crazy. We got like a leaked picture at like out of a factory on 4chan. People were like, that looks fake, whatever, whatever. Well, Sony officially announced this week that yes, they do have a slimmer quote unquote version coming out with a detachable disk drive. Sony hasn't really claimed that it's the slimmer version, more that it's like the revised version. Essentially how it would work, it'd be a completely digital console, except again, like you can add on a detachable disk drive if you want to. You can also buy it immediately with it. The price is really where people were like kind of getting a little irritated by it, where a lot of people were saying that it's cheaper to either get the disk drive with the detachable disk drive already on there prior to getting it later, as it's like $80 opposed to the $50 difference. There's a lot of like negative, I think, that goes into this, you know, new quote unquote revised model. Things like the fact that obviously Sony's moving closer to all digital. Obviously this feels like kind of a cheap cash grab in some degree. Like, is it really necessary? All it really does, I think, great, is that it adds more storage, but you can also just buy separate storage. It doesn't really, you don't really need to go out there and buy a whole new console for this. I think it's just more for like the people getting into the ecosystem aren't really gonna have another option besides this, you know, digital version essentially. I don't know. It is very weird of Sony, but expected. What wasn't expected, or maybe it was expected, I guess it depends on your view of Sony, but the monthly games getting added to PlayStation Plus have been announced for October. There's a good list of them. I'm not going to go over all of them. The big highlights were like Alien Isolation, Dead Island, the Definitive Edition, and of course, Gotham Knights. Now, the reason why I say it's like unexpected was, again, with their recent announcement of them raising the price of like all their PlayStation Plus subscription tiers, and a lot of people saying how there's going to be, you know, updates, and there's a reason why they're raising the prices. A lot of people speculated that we'll finally get like an actual PS2 like emulator, so we can actually start getting, you know, cool PS2 games added, etc., etc. A lot of reasons. And so far the things they've announced since then are, I'm gonna be honest, like a mid tier or like terrible games being added to the like list of games, or this like movie thing that like you can rent movies on your PlayStation, whatever. Again, none of those things, in my opinion, justify the kind of horrendous price increase. And the fact that I feel like Sony just doesn't really care about like adding anything for the consumers that really we value. It's kind of just feels like they're just throwing things in there to say, look, we're giving you things, give us money, instead of saying, hey, we understand that you guys don't like this amount of money, here's, you know, something to help lighten the load, you know, soften the blow, whatever. But hey, Sony, this is Sony in a new modern 2023. They're very greedy. They're very anti-consumer. Hey, I bought a PS5, so I guess I encourage it on them. So can't really say too much beyond that. Now let's talk about something that I don't think I've ever really talked about on this channel, and that is Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite is set to release Season 5 This is called Reckoning, out on October 17th. And everyone is claiming this is the, season pass. This is the season where Halo Infinite is finally, good, quote unquote. Only 5 seasons later, but hey, they're adding new maps. They're adding AI into Forge mode. They're adding like new modes that a lot of people have been requesting, like Firefight. Flood is back. All these things that I guess the fan base have been asking for since apparently launch. And it's quote unquote good now, is what a lot of people are claiming. A lot of people are saying. I don't know, man. I think it's still embarrassing that Halo, the flagship or ex-flagship IP of Xbox, takes 5 seasons to be quote unquote good. Because I remember back in Halo 2, Halo 3, even Halo Reach, the anticipation and the hype of Halo prior to release was insane, and even after release was just amazing. Just to see, something like Halo be knocked down to the point where it's a franchise that takes 5 seasons to get good. I mean, it's new Xbox problems. Alright, let's talk about something that I would pray and hope that I would never have to speak of again, and that is Redfall. This is kind of old news, but I did kind of want to speak on it a little bit, as this happened closer to the end of last week. And this is the fact that Redfall is officially running at 60 frames per second. They added more, like, better AI. They added, like, stealth takedowns, which is, what Arcane is kind of known for, those, like, stealth takedowns. But, hey, it's finally here. Redfall is finally, quote-unquote good now. This, Halo repeat, this whole conversation that's happening with Xbox games currently is, they're not good at launch. It just takes them a while to get good, etc., etc. Man, again, I feel like this highlights a bigger issue for Xbox and maybe even Game Pass, where these games, again, have no reason to launch feature complete, launch in their best state on day one, that it takes months, sometimes even years in the case of Halo Infinite, to get quote unquote good. And the thing about it too is, why is Xbox settling for good? Why aren't we going for amazing, S tier, game of the year winning games? And we're just not really seeing that from Xbox. And I don't know when we will, but hopefully sometime soon, because even Starfield, I don't think was a big enough hit to really change the narrative on Xbox. But again, hopefully Xbox gets it together soon enough. I want to talk about something that's weird, and this is the fact that Hideki Kamiya, this is the mastermind, quote unquote, at Platinum Games, who left like last week. He's the guy, the genius behind games like Bayonetta. He helped with Devil May Cry, Resident Evil 2. He's done a lot of things within gaming. He left Platinum recently and has announced that he is starting a YouTube channel, and it looks weird. He promises it has nothing to do about gaming. It's just him doing weird stuff. He also mentioned how he won't be able to work in the game industry for another year, as he has like a non-compete clause within his like contract, so that he can't really do or create anything within the video game space without Platinum really owning it. So he's just gonna take a retirement break. He's just gonna relax, chill, and do his weird stuff on YouTube. I don't really see an interest for me in this. I just thought it was weird, kooky, crazy, and I just wanted to add it because I thought it was interesting. Good news, probably. I think better news. There's been an update on the whole Unity controversy situation. If you guys aren't up to date, recently Unity has gone under fire by changing their new price model and effectively like probably almost bankrupting tons of indie companies, and we can go down that road further. Anyways, the CEO, who was like the figurehead, the face of this whole new master plan, John Riccitiello, has officially stepped down. It takes place immediately, and I think the PR message was that this is a good thing for John Riccitiello and he should retire, etc., etc. But it's very obvious that this is coming after this whole controversy sparked about their new price changes. So it's pretty clear that they wanted the guy out after that. This did spark a whole nother conversation though about who will replace him, because ultimately Unity as a company is looking to make more money, and John Riccitiello being the face of this whole new regime, or this past regime that just did not do good, isn't necessarily all on the man John Riccitiello. A lot of it has to do with the people above him, shareholders, stockholders, things like that. that highlights a bigger issue within Unity, a lot will be very telling with whoever they choose to take that CEO position after John Riccitiello has left. But hopefully Unity's learned their lesson and they don't try to pull stunts like this. But it is going to take a lot of work for them to kind of regain the trust of the developers, their fan base, etc., and everyone who really wants to work with Unity. So here's hoping they make the right steps and help to bridge that like trust back to the developers. Ubisoft has made the news multiple times this week. The first news is good news, so I'm going to start there. And it's the fact that Assassin's Creed Mirage has officially been Ubisoft's best-selling next-gen game. I don't really know exactly what that means, whether it means that over all their first, new games that ever entered like any next generation. So like you think of like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed back on the Xbox 360. I think Syndicate launched on the PS4 or whatever. I think that's what it means, that if you get those games, Assassin's Creed Mirage is the best performing new game for a newer generation, or if it means that this is their best selling game for this current new generation. Whatever it is, all it is Ubisoft is happy with Assassin's Creed Mirage's performance, their sales, etc. Good on you guys. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I'm happy to say that I am done playing Assassin's Creed Mirage. No, I didn't beat the game. I just think the game is not really a good game in my opinion. I think it's very boring. It's very lackluster. It just wasn't a game for me, but I'm happy for those of you guys who really enjoy it. Now, moving on to some bad Ubisoft news. Their COD-like shooter game Xdefiant has been indefinitely delayed. It said it has been delayed due to they want to work out some inconsistencies within the game. This is very interesting, as there was a lot of betas for this game and a lot of people were singing it praises, saying it is a good shooter. Just a little generic, a little too COD wannabe and not enough of its own like identity. So it makes sense for them to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out something that really makes it stand out, make it worth launching. I don't think this is going to be one of those games that never releases. I do think Ubisoft has every intention on releasing this game. So again, here's hoping that Xdefiant is better off for these delays. Acquisitions and mergers are becoming commonplace within the video game landscape, and this next acquisition talk is interesting to say the least. And this is the fact that Disney's CEO Bob Iger is being pressured by some of their other senior staff to become a powerhouse in gaming. They say that they should look into investing in acquiring a major publisher like an EA or like an Ubisoft. Companies and publishers they already have close relations with. I think a lot of people were very negative on this. I think a lot of people were like, acquisitions aren't that great. We don't like Disney right now. Bob Iger is a butthole because of the things he said during the strike and stuff like that. And I agree with all those things. I don't like acquisitions. I don't like Bob Iger too much. I don't think Disney's in the best position they've ever been. I do think Disney has a chance to be a powerhouse in gaming. Right now how it works is they kind of just license out their titles to whoever they think is the best studio, best team for their specific games. And that I think is a great route, and I think that's probably the better route. If Disney was to go the route of acquiring a publisher, I don't necessarily think it'd be the worst thing, as they don't really have a stronghold in gaming. So I don't think they'll necessarily completely take over and change anything too much. I think they're really gonna say hey, you're the gaming publisher, you make the money, you make the money for us essentially. Now obviously this is a little bit of naivety on my part. Disney's obviously a major corporation with a lot of moving parts, and they definitely want to do things the Disney way. We saw things after they bought Lucasfilms, after they bought some other things like Marvel, that they kind of flooded the mainstream with all these shows and movies that no one ever asked for. And who's to say they won't do the same with gaming? I do think Disney isn't the stupidest company, though. I do think they understand that their stronghold isn't in gaming, and if they were to acquire a publisher like EA, like Ubisoft, you kind of got to let them do their thing, as they would know more in that space. Anyways, moving on to our final news topic, Lords of the Fallen. This is like a reboot of the 2014 Souls-like Lords of the Fallen. Got its reviews this week, and it is sitting currently at a Metacritic of 76. Um, this is like a classic case of people wanting to do From Software style Souls games, but not really nailing it as well as From Software. I think also this coming off the like back of Liza P, which is a very great, a very phenomenal Souls game. Lords of the Fallen, I think, misses the mark, at least based off reviews, as far as, you know, trying to be as polished as From Software, kind of missing the mark as far as like some of the glitches, missing the mark as far as some of the boss combat, missing the mark as far as really trying to stand out in a large like space of Souls style games that are becoming more popular. So I feel like Lords of the Fallen, by any account, is not a terrible game based off reviews, but it's definitely not like a must get Souls game. Unless you're like a diehard I love Souls game fan, like then definitely hop into Lords of the Fallen. I personally will be missing this one. It doesn't look too interesting. It never really did look that interesting to me. So it's just, again, it's not my bag. This one isn't for me. But if you guys are playing it, if you guys are checking it out, let me know down below if you guys like it. With all that being said, let me know down below if there's any of these topics that you found interesting. What are some of your thoughts? I will be seeing you guys on the next video. Go out there, have some fun, touch some grass, play some games, do your thing, and enjoy your weekend. See you guys.